Welcome to episode number 2 of Real Talk with Z. We are discussing what to do while you're single. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this now. Technically, you're single until you're married. There are a lot of things that do not change until you are actually married to the person that you are with, and that wouldn't necessarily change just because you're in a relationship with that person. The first thing is knowing who you are and your identity. A lot of times during the time when people are, really trying to figure out, okay, what am I here on this earth for? They get confused and think that they can find their personal identity in the person that they would be in a relationship with. A very confusing, winding road that leads to nowhere. Sometimes it's tempting to think that I will change, I will do what I need to do when I find that person. And then it's always about that person, making you happy, as opposed to I'm content with who God created me to be, and I'm going to live those things out until someone comes along that's content with who they're called to be, and then you live that out together, because everybody has kind of the same mindset. This video is for those who maybe never even heard of something like this before, to see that there is a part you can play before you meet that special person that just makes you much better off in the long run. I'm not a relationship coach. I don't know everything about relationships. I've never been married. I have been blessed to be around a lot of successful relationships, seen, my parents in a good marriage. I've learned from my time of being alone. Alone doesn't mean without friends or anything like that, but just at a time where it's me and God alone, figuring out what I'm supposed to do before trying to add someone else to that. God has called us to be faithful people. If you're a believer, then your life is a life lived in faith. You don't believe everything just because you see it. You don't disbelieve everything just because you don't see it. That's the life we're called to live. The process of being faithful is a mindset that comes from your walk with God. Without walking that out daily in the little task, then something like being faithful in a relationship seems like a hard, impossible thing to some people. They've been unfaithful because they haven't, trained their flesh. They haven't learned to see what God has planned for them. And so when things don't go their way, or when they can't train their flesh, they look again to another person to fulfill these needs. Faithfulness begins with God. It begins with the things He's asked you to do individually as a person. And when you're faithful to that and faithful to God, then it is, I will say, easier to be faithful to other people, because you value your word that you put out there. You value what you've been called to do. You're on an assignment. And so when you think that you're just here just because, it's really easy to get trapped in what can I do to please other people, or even please yourself. Sometimes relationships can be a distraction, and you have to know yourself well enough to know, is this going to bring me closer to my goals, to my purpose, or take me away from that? You want to be as whole as you can in a relationship. Now, there's always going to be growth even after you've found someone. There's going to be growth that needs to happen, but you don't want it to be where you're insecure with yourself to the point that if that person was no longer with you or broke up with you, you're just torn. You don't know your purpose in life. I just want to be in a relationship. Dude, what is the purpose of the relationship? And why do you want to be in one so bad? There were some times I was, in undergrad and praying like, Lord, let me meet somebody, let me be in a relationship. And looking back, I'm like, wow, that was the best thing for me not to be in a relationship while I was in undergrad. Because I had so much to work on musically that if I was trying to involve another person during that time, I wouldn't have been focused, because I was so focused on how can I keep the attention of these people. When you're not in the right mindset, you waste time. The lessons that you learn during this time are not wasted, and God has a purpose for it all. It might not be fun. There are plenty of times, plenty of holidays and celebrations where it's like, I wish I could be with someone. That's me being honest. A lot of people feel like that. That doesn't mean that it's time to go and jump into different situations and relationships and situationships just to feel something that only your relationship with God can fulfill. And motive is everything. God knows our heart. He knows those secret thoughts that we have, and it's just better to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself those questions. Why do I want to be in a relationship right now? I'm simply sharing my experiences. That's really one of the purposes of Real Talk with Z. I'm talking about real things from real experiences. Real Talk with Z. If you have questions, please comment. Please send me a message. I'll be happy to clarify anything I said that you may not have understood, or send you scriptures, things like that. Let me know.